Sir Elton Hercules John is an English singer, pianist, and composer. Commonly nicknamed the Rocket Man after his 1972 hit single of the same name, John has led a commercially successful career as a solo artist since the 1970s, having released 31 albums since 1969. Collaborating with lyricist Bernie Taupin since 1967, John is acclaimed by critics and musicians, particularly for his work during the 1970s, and his lasting impact on the music industry. John's music and showmanship have had a significant impact on popular music. His songwriter partnership with Taupin is one of the most successful in history. Raised in Pinner, John learned to play piano at an early age, and by 1962 had formed Bluesology, a blues band he was a member of until 1967. He met his longtime musical partner Taupin in 1967, after they both answered an advert for songwriters. For 2 years, they wrote songs for other artists, and John worked as a session musician for artists. In 1969, John released his debut album Empty Sky. In 1970, he formed the Elton John Band and released his first hit single, Your Song, which became his first top 10 in both the UK and the US. John's critical success was at its peak in the 1970s, when he released a streak of chart-topping albums in the US and UK, which began with Honky Chateau and culminated with Rock of the Westies. John continued his success in the 1980s and 1990s, having several hit singles and albums in both decades, and has continued to record new music since then. He has also had success in musical films and theatre, composing music for The Lion King and its stage adaptation, Aida, and Billy Elliot the Musical. In 2017, John released the Greatest Hits album Diamonds, spanning his hits from 1970 to 2016. In 2018, John began his ongoing farewell tour Farewell Yellow Brick Road, which will conclude in 2023. John's autobiography, Me, was published in 2019. That same year, his life and music career was dramatized in the biopic Rocketman. While he did not appear in his own biopic, John has made cameos in other films and television shows. Outside of music, John is an HIV/AIDS charity fundraiser and has been involved in the fight against AIDS since the late 1980s. Following the deaths of Ryan White and Freddie Mercury, John established the Elton John AIDS Foundation in 1992, and a year later he began hosting his annual Foundation Academy Awards party, which has since become one of the biggest high-profile Oscar parties in the Hollywood film industry. Since its inception, the foundation has raised over £300 million. John owned Watford FC from 1976 to 1987 and again from 1997 to 2002, and is an honorary life president of the club. John announced he was bisexual in 1976 and has been openly gay since 1988. He entered into a civil partnership with Canadian filmmaker David Furnish in 2005. They married after same-sex marriage became legal in England and Wales in 2014. John is one of the best-selling artists of all time, having sold over 300 million records worldwide in a 6-decade career in music. He has more than 50 top 40 hits in the UK singles chart and US Billboard Hot 100, including 9 number ones in the UK and US, as well as 7 consecutive number 1 albums in the US. His 1973 double album Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and his 1974 Greatest Hits compilation album are among the best-selling albums worldwide. His tribute single Candle in the Wind 1997, a rewritten version of his 1974 single in dedication to Diana, Princess of Wales, sold over 33 million copies worldwide and is the best-selling chart single of all time. In 2019, John was ranked by Billboard as the top solo artist in U.S. chart history, and the top adult contemporary artist of all time. In 2021, John became the first solo artist with UK top 10 singles across 6 decades. John has received 5 Grammy Awards, 5 Brit Awards, including for Outstanding Contribution to Music, 2 Academy Awards, 2 Golden Globes, a Tony Award, a Laurence Olivier Award, a Disney Legends Award, and the Kennedy Center Honor. In 2004, Rolling Stone ranked him 49th on its list of 100 influential musicians of the rock and roll era. He was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1992 and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1994, and is a Fellow of the Ivors Academy. He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II for services to music and charitable services in 1998. French President Emmanuel Macron presented John with France's highest civilian award, the Légion d'honneur, in 2019, and called John a melodic genius and praised his work on behalf of the LGBT community. Early life. Elton John was born Reginald Kenneth Dwight on March 25, 1947 in Pinner, Middlesex, the eldest child of Stanley Dwight and only child of Sheila Eileen. He was raised in a council house in Pinner by his maternal grandparents. His parents married in 1945, when the family moved to a nearby semi-detached house. He was educated at Pinner Wood Junior School, Ready Ford School, and Pinner County Grammar School, until he was 17, when he left just prior to his A-level examinations to pursue a career in music. When John began to consider a career in music seriously, his father, who served in the Royal Air Force, tried to steer him toward a more conventional career, such as banking. John has said that his wild stage costumes and performances were his way of letting go after such a restrictive childhood. Both his parents were musically inclined, his father having been a trumpet player with the Bob Miller Band, a semi-professional big band that played at military dances. The Dwights were keen record buyers, exposing John to the popular singers and musicians of the day, and he has said he remembers being immediately hooked on rock and roll when his mother brought home records by Elvis Presley and Bill Haley and his Comets in 1956. Growing up, he states, "I heard Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis, and that was it. I didn't ever want to be anything else. I'm more of a Little Richard stylist than a Jerry Lee Lewis, I think." Jerry Lee is a very intricate piano player and very skillful, but Little Richard is more of a pounder. John started playing his grandmother's piano as a young boy, and within a year his mother heard him picking out Waldteufel's The Skater's Waltz by ear. After performing at parties and family gatherings, at age 7 he began formal piano lessons. He showed musical aptitude at school, including the ability to compose melodies and gain some notoriety by playing like Jerry Lee Lewis at school functions. At age 11, he won a junior scholarship to the Royal Academy of Music. According to one of his instructors, John promptly played back, like a gramophone record, a 4-page piece by George Frideric Handel after hearing it for the first time. For the next 5 years, John attended Saturday classes at the Academy in central London, and he has said he enjoyed playing Frédéric Chopin and Johann Sebastian Bach and singing in the choir during Saturday classes, but that he was not otherwise a diligent classical student. "I kind of resented going to the Academy," he said. "I was one of those children who could just about get away without practicing and still scrape through the grades." He has said that he would sometimes skip classes and ride around on the London Underground. Several instructors have attested that he was a model student, and during the last few years he took lessons from a private tutor in addition to his classes at the Academy. He left the Academy before taking the final exams. John's mother, though strict with her son, was more vivacious than her husband, and something of a free spirit. With Stanley Dwight uninterested in his son and often absent, John was raised primarily by his mother and maternal grandmother. When his father was home, the Dwights had vehement arguments that greatly distressed John. When he was 14, they divorced. His mother then married a local painter, Fred Fairbrother, a caring and supportive stepfather whom John affectionately called Durf. They moved into flat No. 3A in an 8-unit apartment building called Frome Court, not far from both previous homes. There John wrote the songs that launched his career as a rock star. He lived there until he had 4 albums simultaneously in the American Top 40. Career 1962–1969, pub pianist to staff songwriter. At age 15, with his mother's and stepfather's help, John was hired as a pianist at a nearby pub, the Northwood Hills Hotel, playing Thursday to Sunday nights. Known simply as Reggie, he played a range of popular standards, including songs by Jim Reeves and Ray Charles, as well as his own songs. A stint with a short-lived group called the Corvettes rounded out his time. Although normal-sighted as a teenager, John began wearing horn-rimmed glasses to imitate Buddy Holly. In 1962, John and some friends formed a band called Bluesology. By day, he ran errands for a music publishing company. He divided his nights between solo gigs at a London hotel bar and working with Bluesology. By the mid-1960s, Bluesology was backing touring American soul and R&B musicians like the Isley Brothers, Major Lance, and Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells. In 1966, the band became Long John Baldry's supporting band and played 16 times at the Marquee Club. In 1967, John answered an advertisement in the British magazine New Musical Express, placed by Ray Williams, then the A&R manager for Liberty Records. At their first meeting, Williams gave John an unopened envelope of lyrics written by Bernie Taupin, who had answered the same ad. John wrote music for the lyrics and then sent it to Taupin, beginning a partnership that still continues. When the two first met in 1967, they recorded the first John/Taupin song, Scarecrow. 6 months later, John began going by the name Elton John in homage to 2 members of Bluesology, saxophonist Elton Dean and vocalist Long John Baldry. He legally changed his name to Elton Hercules John on January 7, 1972. The team of John and Taupin joined Dick James's DJM Records as staff songwriters in 1968, and over the next 2 years wrote material for various artists, among them Roger Cook and Lulu. Taupin would write a batch of lyrics in under an hour and give it to John, who would write music for them in half an hour, disposing of the lyrics if he could not come up with anything quickly. For 2 years they wrote easy listening tunes for James to peddle to singers. Their early output included a contender for the UK entry for the Eurovision Song Contest 1969, for Lulu, called I Can't Go On. It came 6th of 6 songs. In 1969, John provided piano for Roger Hodgson on his first released single, Mr. Boyd by Argosy, a quartet that was completed by Caleb Key and Nigel Olsson. 1969–1973, debut album To I Goodbye Yellow Brick Road/I. None. 1974–1980, the Rocket Record Company To I 21 at 33/I. None. 1981–1989, I The Fox/I To I Sleeping with the Past/I. None. 1990–1999, Sacrifice To I Aida/I. None. 2000–2009, I Billy Elliot the Musical/I and 60th Birthday. None. 2010–2018, I The Union/I To I Wonderful Crazy Night/I. None. 2018–present, I Rocketman/I Biopic and Retirement Tour. None. Musicianship. John has written with Bernie Taupin since 1967, when he answered an advertisement for talent placed in the popular UK music publication New Musical Express by Liberty Records A&R man Ray Williams. The pair have collaborated on more than 30 albums to date. Their method involves Topin writing the lyrics on his own and sending them to John, who then writes music for them before recording the songs. The two are never in the same room during the process. In November 2017, John said of their 50-year partnership, "EVE never ever had an argument professionally or personally, which is extraordinary because most songwriters sometimes split up because they get jealous of each other. And it's exciting because it's never changed from the first day we wrote songs. I still write the song when he's not there and then I go and play it to him. So the excitement is still the same as it was from day one, and that's kept it fresh and it's kept it exciting." In 1992, along with Topin, John was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. He is a Fellow of the British Academy of Songwriters, Composers, and Authors. His voice was once classed as a tenor, it is now a baritone. His piano playing is influenced by classical music and gospel music. He used Paul Buckmaster to arrange the music on his studio albums during the 1970s. Personal life. Sexuality and family. In the late 1960s, John was engaged to be married to his first lover, Secretary Linda Woodrow, who is mentioned in the song "Someone Saved My Life Tonight." Woodrow provided financial assistance to John and Topin at the time. John ended the relationship 2 weeks before their intended wedding, after being advised by Topin and Long John Baldry. In 2020, John helped pay for Woodrow's medical fees upon her request, despite having lost contact with her 50 years previously. In 1970, right after his first U.S. shows in Los Angeles, he lost his virginity to and started his first gay relationship with John Reid, the Tamla Motown label manager for the UK, who later became John's manager. The relationship ended 5 years later, although Reid remained his manager until 1998. John married German recording engineer Renate Blau on February 14, 1984, in an extravagant wedding ceremony at Darling Point, New South Wales, Australia. Blau said she attempted suicide during their honeymoon in Tropez after John told her that he wanted to end the union. Their marriage ended in divorce in 1988. John stated, "She was the classiest woman I've ever met, but it wasn't meant to be. I was living a lie." In 2020, Blau sued John for writing about their relationship in his 2019 Me, Elton John official autobiography, which she claimed broke the terms of their divorce agreement. The case was settled later the same year. John had come out as bisexual in a 1976 interview with Rolling Stone, and in 1992 he told Rolling Stone in another interview that he was quite comfortable about being gay. In 1993, John began a relationship with David Furnish, a former advertising executive and now filmmaker originally from Toronto. On December 21, 2005, John and Furnish were among the first couples to form a civil partnership in the United Kingdom, which was held at the Windsor Guildhall. After same-sex marriage became legal in the United Kingdom in March 2014, John and Furnish married in Windsor, Berkshire, on December 21, 2014, the 9th anniversary of their civil partnership. John and Furnish have 2 sons. The elder, Zachary Jackson Levon Furnish John, was born via surrogacy on December 25, 2010 in California. The younger, Elijah Joseph Daniel Furnish John, was born on January 11, 2013 via the same surrogate. John also has 10 godchildren, including Sean Lennon, David, and Victoria Beckham's sons Brooklyn and Romeo, Elizabeth Hurley's son Damien Hurley, and Seymour Stein's daughter. In 2010, some Christian groups in the U.S. criticized John after he described Jesus as a compassionate, super-intelligent gay man who understood human problems. Bill Donahue, president of the Catholic League for Religious and Civil Rights and opponent of gay marriage, responded, "To call Jesus a homosexual is to label him a sexual deviant." But what else would we expect from a man who previously said, "From my point of view, I would ban religion completely"? John stated, in his 2019 autobiography Me, that he had received many death threats as a result of his statements. Neil Horsley, a Christian Reconstructionist from Bremen, Georgia, United States, was arrested for making terrorist threats, after posting a YouTube video stating, "We're here today to remind Elton John that he has to die." The charges were subsequently dropped. In 2008, John said he preferred civil partnerships to marriage for gay people, but by 2012 he had changed his position and become a supporter of same-sex marriage in the United Kingdom. John said, "There is a world of difference between calling someone your partner and calling them your husband. Partner is a word that should be preserved for people you play tennis with, or work alongside in business. It doesn't come close to describing the love that I have for David, and he for me. In contrast, husband does." In 2014, he claimed Jesus would have been in favor of same-sex marriage. Wealth. In April 2009, the Sunday Times Rich List estimated John's wealth at £175 million and ranked him the 322nd wealthiest person in Britain. A decade later, John was estimated to have a fortune of £320 million in the 2019 Sunday Times Rich List, making him one of the 10 wealthiest people in the British music industry. Aside from his main home, Woodside, in Old Windsor, Berkshire, John owns residences in Atlanta, London, Los Angeles, Nice and Venice. His property in Nice is on Mont Boron. John is an art collector and is believed to have one of the largest private photography collections in the world. In 2000, John admitted to spending £30 million in just under 2 years, an average of £1.5 million a month. Between January 1996 and September 1997, he spent more than £9.6 million on property and £293,000 on flowers. In June 2001, John sold 20 of his cars at Christie's, saying he never had the chance to drive them because he was out of the country so often. The sale, which included a 1993 Jaguar XJ220, the most expensive at £234,750, and several Ferraris, Rolls-Royces, and Bentleys, raised nearly £2 million. In 2003, John sold the contents of his Holland Park home, expected to fetch £800,000 at Sotheby's, to modernize the decoration and to display some of his contemporary art collection. Every year since 2004, John has opened a shop called Elton's Closet, in which he sells his second-hand clothes. In October 2021, John was named in the Pandora Papers, which allege a secret financial deal of politicians and celebrities using tax havens in an effort to avoid the payment of owed taxes. Other. By 1975, the pressures of stardom had begun to take a serious toll on John. During Elton Week in Los Angeles that year, he had a cocaine overdose. He also developed the eating disorder bulimia. In a 2002 CNN interview with Larry King, King asked if John knew of Diana, Princess of Wales's eating disorder. John replied, "Yes, I did. We were both bulimic." In a July 2019 Instagram post, John stated he had been sober for 29 years. At a 2022 concert in Indianapolis, John said he cleaned himself up after spending time with the family of Ryan White. "I knew that my lifestyle was crazy and out of order. I cannot thank them enough, because without them, I'd probably be dead." In a 2014 interview, he also attributed his sobriety to the Kate Bush and Peter Gabriel duet Don't Give Up from 1986, in particular the lyric from Bush, "Rest your head. You worry too much. It's going to be all right. When times get rough you can fall back on us. Don't give up." He states, "She played a big part in my rebirth. That record helped me so much." A longtime tennis enthusiast, in 1975 he released the song Philadelphia Freedom in tribute to his friend Billie Jean King's world team tennis team, the Philadelphia Freedoms. King was a player-coach for the team at the time. John and King remain friends and co-host an annual Pro-Am event to benefit AIDS charities, most notably the Elton John AIDS Foundation, of which King is a chairperson. John, who maintains a part-time residence in Atlanta, Georgia, became a fan of the Atlanta Braves baseball team when he moved there in 1991. John has appeared in commercials for Diet Coke, the Royal Mail, Snickers, and John Lewis and Partners department store, among others. First endorsing Diet Coke in 1990, authors Roger Blackwell and Tina Stephan wrote the relationship of Elton John and Diet Coke is one of the classic success stories in the role of sponsorship in brand building. His 2018 John Lewis and Partners Christmas advert in the UK, titled, "The Boy and the Piano," sees him reminisce about his life and career in reverse, eventually culminating with Christmas Day in the 1950s when he received a piano for Christmas from his mother. An admirer of Monty Python, in 1975 he was among a group of musicians who helped finance their film Monty Python and the Holy Grail. At the Second Empire Awards in 1997 John presented the comedy group the Empire Inspiration Award. On April 22, 2017, John was discharged from hospital after 2 nights of intensive care for contracting a harmful and unusual bacterial infection during his return flight home from a South American tour in Santiago, Chile, and was forced to cancel all his shows scheduled for April and May 2017. In October 2021, John required hip surgery after falling awkwardly on a hard surface. Football. John became the chairman and director of Watford FC in 1976, after supporting the team since his youth. John appointed Graham Taylor as manager and invested large sums of money as the club rose 3 divisions into the English First Division. At their height, the club finished runners-up in the First Division to Liverpool in 1983 and reached the FA Cup final at Wembley Stadium in 1984. John sold the club to Jack Peche in 1987, but remained president. 10 years later, John repurchased the club from Peche and once again became chairman. He stepped down in 2002 when the club needed a full-time chairman, but continued as president. Although no longer the majority shareholder, John still holds a significant financial interest. In 2005 and 2010, John held a concert at Watford's home stadium, Vicarage Road, and donated proceeds to the club. He has remained friends with a number of high-profile players in football, including Pelé and David Beckham. From late 1975 to 1976, John was a part owner of the Los Angeles Aztecs of the North American Soccer League. On December 13, 2014, he appeared at Watford's Vicarage Road with his husband and sons for the opening of the Sir Elton John stand. He called the occasion one of the greatest days of my life. John's paternal cousin Roy Dwight was a professional footballer, who scored for Nottingham Forest in the 1959 FA Cup final before breaking his leg later in the same match. Political views. John has performed at a number of events involving the British royal family, such as the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales at Westminster Abbey in 1997, the party at the Palace in 2002 and the Queen's Diamond Jubilee concert outside Buckingham Palace in 2012. In 2013, John resisted calls to boycott Russia in protest at the Russian gay propaganda law, but told fans at a Moscow concert that the laws were inhumane and isolating, and he was deeply saddened and shocked over the current legislation. In a January 2014 interview, Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke of John in an attempt to show that there was no discrimination against gays in Russia, saying, "Elton John, he's an extraordinary person, a distinguished musician, and millions of our people sincerely love him, regardless of his sexual orientation. John responded by offering to introduce Putin to Russians abused under Russian legislation banning homosexual propaganda. On September 24, 2015, the Associated Press reported that Putin called John and invited him to meet in the future to discuss LGBT rights in Russia. Putin's call came just a few days after two pranksters phoned John, pretending to be Putin and his spokesman, and causing John to erroneously thank Putin for the call on John's Instagram account. John announced his intention to vote Remain during the UK's 2016 EU referendum on Instagram, sharing an image with the words "Build bridges not walls," along with the caption "I'm voting to Remain." Number stronger in Europe. In 2019, he said the Brexit vote and the way it had been handled had made him ashamed. In 2016, John performed at Radio City Music Hall in New York City during Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. In October 2020, John called attention to the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. He said in his Instagram post, "In May 2018, I visited and was overwhelmed with the kindness and humanity shown to me by the Armenian people. Now Armenia and Artsakh are under attack from unprovoked Azeri/Turkish aggression. Civilians are being targeted and there are needless deaths on both sides." Philanthropy. John is well known for his philanthropic efforts, being involved in charity fundraising events since 1986. In 1992, after losing two friends to HIV/AIDS in the span of a year, John founded the Elton John AIDS Foundation, an organization which has raised over $600 million to support HIV-related programs in 55 countries. John was recognized by Elizabeth II for his services to charity twice, receiving a knighthood in 1998 and being appointed a member of the Order of the Companions of Honor in 2020. AIDS Foundation. John has said that he took risks with unprotected sex during the 1980s and considers himself lucky to have avoided contracting HIV. In 1986, he joined with Dionne Warwick, Gladys Knight, and Stevie Wonder to record the single "That's What Friends Are For," with profits donated to the American Foundation for AIDS Research. The song won the Grammy Award for Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals. In April 1990, John performed his 1968 ballad "Skyline Pigeon" at the funeral of Ryan White, a teenage hemophiliac he had befriended. John became more closely associated with AIDS charities following the deaths of his friends Ryan White in 1990 and Freddie Mercury in 1991, raising large amounts of money and using his public profile to raise awareness of the disease. He founded the Elton John AIDS Foundation in 1992 as a charity to fund programs for HIV/AIDS prevention, for the elimination of prejudice and discrimination against HIV/AIDS affected individuals, and to provide services to people living with or at risk of contracting HIV/AIDS. This continues to be one of his passions. In 1993, he began hosting his annual Academy Award party, which has become one of the highest-profile Oscar parties in the Hollywood film industry and has raised over $200 million to raise money for his AIDS charity. John annually hosts a white tie anti-Arab ball on the grounds of his home in Old Windsor in Berkshire, to which many celebrities are invited. The 9th annual white tie anti-Arab ball took place on June 28, 2007. The menu consisted of a truffle souffle followed by surf and turf and a giant Knickerbocker Glory ice cream. An auction followed, emceed by Stephen Fry. A Rolls-Royce Phantom drop head coupe and a piece of Tracy Emin's artwork both raised £800,000 for the charity fund, with the total amount raised reaching £3.5 million. Later John sang Delilah with Tom Jones and Big Spender with Shirley Bassey. The 2011 guests included Sarah, Duchess of York, Elizabeth Hurley, and George Michael, and the auction raised £5 million, adding to the £45 million the Balls have raised for John's foundation. Other charity work. John and his husband David Furnish founded the Elton John Charitable Trust in 2007, which has supported over 100 charities. In 2014, John launched the Elton John Sports Fund to help citizens with training and competition costs for over 50 sports. John performed I'm Still Standing during the One World, Together at Home television special, a benefit concert curated by Lady Gaga for Global Citizen to raise funds for the World Health Organization's COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund. Honors and awards. John was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility in 1994. He and Topin had already been inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1992. John was appointed a Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 1995. For his charitable work, he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II on February 24, 1998. In the 2020 New Year Honours, he was appointed member of the Order of the Companions of Honour for services to music and to charity. In October 1975, John became the 1,662nd person to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. John was awarded Society of Singers Lifetime Achievement Award in 2005. He received a Kennedy Center Honor in 2004 and a Disney Legends Award in 2006. In 2000, he was named the Musi Cares Person of the Year for his artistic achievement in the music industry and dedication to philanthropy. In 2010, he received the PRS for Music Heritage Award, which was erected on the Namaste Lounge pub in Northwood, London, where John performed his first gig. In 2019, President Emmanuel Macron appointed John a Chevalier of the Legion of Honor. In 2019, John featured on a series of UK postage stamps issued by the Royal Mail. In 2022, after John performed at the White House, President Joe Biden surprised him by presenting him with the National Humanities Medal. Music awards include the Academy Award for Best Original Song for Can You Feel the Love Tonight from The Lion King, the 1994 Golden Globe Award for Best Original Song for Can You Feel the Love Tonight from The Lion King, and the 2000 Tony Award for Best Original Score for Aida, all of which he shared with Tim Rice. The 2019 Golden Globe Award for Best Original Song and Academy Award for Best Original Song both went to John for Love Me Again, shared with Topin. He has also received 5 Brit Awards, including the 1991 Award for Best British Male, and awards for Outstanding Contribution to Music in 1986 and 1995. In 2013, John received the first Brits Icon Award in recognition of his lasting impact on UK culture, which was presented to him by his close friend Rod Stewart. Rankings. Your Song, and Benny and the Jets are listed in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 500 songs that shaped rock and roll. In 2000, VH1's 100 Greatest Rock Songs included Your Song at number 70. In 2003, Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time included Goodbye Yellow Brick Road at number 91, Greatest Hits at number 135, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy at number 158, Honky Chateau at number 357, Tumbleweed Connection at number 463, and Elton John at number 468. In 2004, Rolling Stone's The 500 Greatest Songs of All Time included Your Song at number 136, Rocket Man at number 242, Candle in the Wind at number 347, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road at number 380, and Tiny Dancer at number 387. In 2004, Rolling Stone ranked John number 49 on their list of the 100 Greatest Artists of All Time. In 2010, John was ranked number 28 on VH1's 100 Greatest Artists of All Time. In 2013, Ultimate Classic Rock website ranked Rocket Man number 37 in their Top 100 Classic Rock Songs chart. In their 2019 list of the greatest artists of all time, Billboard ranked John the top solo artist in U.S. chart history. Discography: Studio albums, Collaboration albums, Live in Australia with the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, Duets, The Union, Good Morning to the Night, The Lockdown Sessions, Soundtrack albums, Friends, The Lion King, Aida, Elton John and Tim Rice's Aida, The Muse, The Road to El Dorado, Billy Elliot, Lestat, Romeo and Juliet, Rocketman, Tours.